Dougie.
Sam.
From champion American racehorse Seabiscuit to the Mighty Ducks to Rocky Balboa, everyone loves a good comeback story. So let's bask in the good times and pick out some of the best that football has offered in the last year or so.
What's the biggest comeback?
Marcus Rashford, what a loan signing he has been for Barcelona.
When someone comes back to a place and he has a point to prove.
It's usually very difficult to find a player in a January transfer market that could improve your team. He fits exactly what this team was missing. You just feel the threat.
When he came on, he gets his goal, but I wouldn't get too excited by any Wendy at all.
Wendy against Ortega, they scored.
I'm delighted for Mainu, the fact that he's managed to get back in the team.
Kobe Mainu, to be fair, I do think is the comeback of the season.
I think he can go to the next level.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome to another episode of The Truth. I am your host, Sam Tighe, sat once again in the official host's chair. Just 2 feet from me is Dougie Gridgley. Very same table, finally. Hello.
Yeah, we're back. We're back with a bang. For those that have been listening, you probably haven't noticed, but we've been recording remotely for the last few weeks, so it's great to be back.
We've complained about it quite a lot.
Well, yeah. I do prefer it in person. I can reach out and punch Sam if necessary.
I can look Dougie in the eyes to see if he really is telling the truth.
Yeah, well, exactly.
When he drops a hot take, which is...
But I'm not surprised, Sam, that you suggested this topic of comebacks of the season so far. And we're going to more talk about individual players rather than teams. But your own team had a pretty famous comeback last week in the Europa League. You must be delighted. Congratulations, a finalist.
Europa League finalist.
Big.
Yeah, huge, yeah. Oh, it took me 3 days to get over that emotionally, I think. It was a big performance last Thursday, yeah.
You were there?
I was there. It was the best I've seen Villa Park in ever.
Really?
And pretty much everybody there also said the same thing. And a lot of the people that were saying that watched Villa beat PSG last year at Villa Park, and they watched beat Bayern Munich last year. So, yeah, there's been some pretty big nights at Villa Park in the last 18 months or so. But Thursday, even though it was in the Europa League, kind of topped everything. And there was this wonderful thing where everybody kind of understood the assignment, I think. Like 1-0 down on aggregate, can't lose to Forest. You can't let Forest get into a semi-final at your expense. Like it's just awful. Yes, there's a bit of Midlands rivalry there, a little bit in Needle, but more than anything, it's been 30 years since Villa won a trophy. What an opportunity. You cannot let this slip. Luca Dean did his best in the first leg. But everybody kind of understood that you're going to have to turn up and you're going to have to do your bit, which doesn't always happen, especially with English fans. You know, it's not a consistent din. We tend to work off moments and big occasions, and the players tend to lead the crowd into noise and atmosphere rather than the other way around. 20 minutes before kickoff, Villa Park, 90% full, singing, raucous, just constant, over and over and over again. Same songs. Anthem comes on, players come out, just continue doing it. I was a bit worried that at half time you might come out a little bit sleepy. Same thing again. It was just 90 minutes of atmosphere. Just incredible. This might sound a bit tin pot, but like among English clubs, English crowds, that doesn't happen. It's very rare that it's like that. And I just think the players couldn't help but feed off that. And so like everybody turned up willing to do their bit and pour all their energy into the stadium, let the players feed off it. And then obviously the performance was basically perfect.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because, I mean, I was only watching on TV and John McGinn was the clear standout. Phenomenal performance, what a story he's had with Villa. Was there anyone else that you thought really stepped up and delivered?
Yeah, I mean, everybody was great. There's a reason it was a near perfect performance, but... Well, Lindelof played in midfield from the start, for the first time ever for Aston Villa, and just did really well. Sort of blanketed Chris Wood from goal kicks to stop him from accessing the ball to his chest. Just did the simple things really well. Build up was good and clean under pressure, and playing in midfield against Elliot Anderson's not easy, but he did it. So well done to him. Torres and Consta were basically perfect too. They were just phenomenal. So. Yeah, it's difficult to pick out anyone that was particularly good because Watkins was brilliant, and that bandage across his forehead has become a little bit iconic already. People wanting to wear it in the final, even if he's not got a cut. So yeah, it was one of those very special nights, and hopefully in Istanbul next week, the job finishes.
Yeah, because you will be there.
I will, yes.
He had us a ticket through officially on the app a few minutes before we started recording. You must be absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, it's difficult to focus on much else.
I bet.
I now have real sympathy for anyone that says, well, players will be distracted. Players will be distracted. There's a final next week. I get it. I totally get it.
Sam's head is not in this podcast.
It's not in the podcast. It's not on my work. It's not in the house. It's nothing. I'm very excited, obviously. 3 days in Istanbul. should be pretty special.
That'd be amazing. So you fly on the Tuesday?
Fly on the Tuesday,
Okay.
yeah. And then the game is on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. local time.
Wow.
Which is my bedtime.
Yes. Don't have too many beers before would be my one tip. You want to try and remember it.
I'm wondering if I need to give my ticket up. 10 p.m. is far too late for a game of football. If it goes to extra time, it'd be day 2.
Yeah, this is
what
true.
A joke. So yeah, I do have to be very cautious, or maybe just go for a little sleep in the afternoon. You never know. But and then fly home on the Thursday. Hopefully, having invaded a post-match party and taken a selfie with John McGinn. Don't know how that's going to happen.
Let's make
I don't
it
really
happen.
have a clear route to that, but we'll see.
Mega. I'm very jealous, man. Very, very jealous. I think, Jack sadly doesn't have a microphone today, but Fulham aren't playing for much. Sunderland aren't playing for much now, despite a very good 0-0 result, if that's even a thing, against Man United at the weekend. But for you guys to have that game to look forward to next week, it's what you dream of in May. So mega.
Jack can't speak right now, but Jack told me earlier that he supports Villa now, and I saw him in a Villa shirt.
Really?
Yeah, earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's very much he's thrown his weight in with us, which is very good of him. Thank you very much,
Love
Jack.
it.
Okay, this week's topic
Comebacks.
is comeback stories to celebrate. You and I have a top 3 each, as is tradition these days. I'm going to start us off by defining a comeback. I guess it's pretty simple, but just in case anyone is not sure, these are players that have returned or recovered from some kind of adversity, some kind of setback, tough times last season, and they've kicked on and improved things. So basically anyone who's turned things around. I think that's the starting point. And we're roughly looking at last season compared to this season, but one of mine stretches back a little bit further as well. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So 3-1 for me, as usual. In at 3, I've gone for someone that's recovered mid-season this year with a move to a different club, and it's Daniel Marlon.
Oh, okay.
It's very fair. It's very fair. You know, he joined Aston Villa in January 2025. He signed a 5-year deal. It was around 21 million pounds in the end. A year later, he joins Roma in a €2 million loan deal. There's an obligation to buy, supposedly for €25 million at the end of this season. Looks like he's probably hit every achievable object of that. Villa will be receiving that money.
I think the obligation was based on Roma qualifying for some form of Europe.
Okay,
Which
so they're
they've
still in with that.
absolutely done.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's difficult with his time at Aston Villa because Unai Emery definitely has his favourites, and he was competing kind of with Ollie Watkins especially, and Ollie Watkins for much of last year, less so at the start of this year, but for much of last year, pretty good. And Daniel Marlon didn't really get too much of a look in. He only scored 10 goals and provided 2 assists in 46 games, but he only started 2 league games in the back half of 24-25, played just under 300 minutes and scored 3 goals. The first half of this year, he gets 4 goals and 1 assist in 21 league games, but only 5 of which were starts. And he wasn't really being used in the Premier League. He was being used in the Europa League, and he looked brightest there. Played about 330 minutes in the first half of the season for Villa in the Europa League, scored 3 goals. So you were thinking, have they kind of weakened their squad for the Europa League run? But actually with the way Ollie Watkins' form has recovered and the fact Tammy Abraham hasn't really needed too much or hasn't been given too many opportunities either because of Ollie Watkins' recovery in form, I don't think this is a disaster from Villa's perspective. But what has happened has just been a phenomenal comeback from Marlon. Interestingly, I look back to what I said on Twitter at the time he left, and I've got an interesting reputation and relationship with Villa fans on Twitter, and this was another classic example. So I wrote on Twitter when he left, Daniel Marlon has only started 5 Premier League games. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think he's primarily a bit of a speed merchant, but his form has improved from last season and has proved useful in the Europa League, scoring 3 times already. Villa are 6 points behind Arsenal through in the FA Cup and have the Europa League knockouts to come. They need to be strengthening their squad, not weakening this month. Unless you're making a considerable profit on the £21 million you signed him for, I'd keep hold of Daniel Marlon. The top reply to that, which got 40 likes and 2 retweets, was, "You're one twat, aren't you? You know fuck all about Villa and our players, you bitch."
Yes, that was me.
That was Sam on his burner account. So it did go to show that people were willing to let Daniel Marlon go. And
well, funnily enough, mate, honestly, there's been a lot of revisionism there, and there's a fair chunk of Villa fans, I would argue, that are still a bit like, Oh man, why did we let him go? Like, there's I think split 50-50. I think some fans were like, whatever, but the other half were really quite strongly in favour of keeping him.
Yeah, and this is why it's a comeback of the season, because he didn't really play that much at Villa. I don't think he looked phenomenal for Villa. It wasn't a massive mistake necessarily to let him go on the basis of his performances so far. I was just more talking about the kind of squad strength. But how well has he played at Roma? He's played phenomenally. He's got 14 goals and 3 assists in 18 games. That's unbelievable. He's scored against Juventus, Napoli, Como and Bologna, other sides that you expect to be in and around the European conversation. Only Lautaro Martinez has scored more goals in Serie A all season, and he only joined in January. He's at 4.5 shots per 90, which is 5th in Europe's top 5 leagues, behind Undav, Krstovic, Mbappe and Yamal. And Roma's forwards this year, despite bringing in Gasperini, who had such a reputation for kind of juicing the numbers of forward players at Atalanta, it's only really Marlon that's had a decent season. I think Matteo Soule's been quite disappointing. Dybala's been very disappointing. Evan Ferguson, Dovbyk, they've either had injury issues or not really been in the team. He's basically put Roma in Champions League contention almost single-handedly. And his replacement at Villa, Tammy Abraham, because of Ollie Watkins' improved form since March, just hasn't really been given that many opportunities. And I think he's played fine when he has. He scored a couple of goals. I think he's on 3 goals. But I don't necessarily put forward Marlon as a criticism of Villa or, meaning to have a go at Emery's decision, because it's kind of been vindicated by the fact you're still in Champions League contention, almost guaranteed a Champions League spot, I say, kind of, and with the Europa League final to come. But Marlon's personal recovery, I think, is worth putting forward.
Yeah, I think this is a fine shout. The goal scoring numbers since the turn of the year, since joining, they are incredible. Like, fair play, really fair play. He started off so hot, didn't he? Started off so well, and all the Villa fans were like, shouldn't have done it.
He looks quick in every league, but he looks unbelievably quick in Serie A.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think this is one of those situations where everybody came out the right side of it. It's not a case of, and I know you're not trying to do this, there's no fingers to point here. It's just a deal where everybody won. Villa under pressure, under the UEFA financial settlement to make money, had the opportunity to buy Tammy for cheaper than they were to sell Daniel Marlon. Because it was the backup striker, they were interested in doing that. Marlon, for all that he's good at, is not necessarily a Premier League number 9. Mm-hmm. Like he is clearly a number 9 in certain scenarios, but he struggled to be a number 9 in the Premier League. Villa only play with 1 striker. On occasion, they would play with Watkins and Marlon, and that would suit Marlon because he'd be the second striker, the runner. But Villa couldn't really play like that because the squad is so shallow that if you start with both your strikers, you don't have any ammunition on the bench to change things later if you need to. So Marlon was often kept in reserve. He also played right wing once. It was an abomination. He did not do any tracking back. Matty Cash went mad at him for not tracking a man into the back post who scored, and that was the end of that. So it quickly became apparent that Marlon could only play one position for Villa, and it was the second striker next to Watkins, which Villa could never really use. So just sell him, because he's worth something, and you can start to churn money and appease the UEFA settlement. So again, from Villa's perspective, it just made sense to do it. And Tammy fits the system, I think, a little bit better. He can play up front on his own. Absolutely. So it makes sense. And good for him, good for him, honestly. I think it was a weird signing to begin with. After a year, it was, for Villa, after a year it was over, but he's come out of it looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's one of those kind of strange players that could have a really good World Cup. There's always some random, not bolter, because he's obviously a talented player, but the Netherlands have such a solid base in terms of defenders, like unbelievable quality of defenders. They've got some really good midfielders. They probably lack some stardust up front. It'll be Memphis Depay leading the line again. Daniel Marlon coming off the bench against tired defences in massive heat, in crazy heated conditions. I think he could have a decent World Cup.
Yeah, I think so too. He is a finisher. He's a proper finisher. Hits the ball really hard. Knows how to make his runs. Good penalty taker. Conditions are there.
I like it.
Nice. All right. Well, this is a very Aston Villa heavy podcast.
You're the topic at the moment, man.
Yeah. Right. My number 3 is Mateus Nunes. Or I think maybe in alternate terms, we'll probably call this Man City's right back situation in general. Has had a bit of a comeback season. Because for a good while, I would say, definitely leading into this campaign, since Kyle Walker fell off after Euro 2024, City's right-back situation has been a bit of a question mark. And in that time, Mateus Nunes has been kind of reconditioned as a right-back, and it has taken him a very long time to figure it out. fair play to him, he has done it.
Yeah.
Also during that time, Rico Lewis has been promoted from the academy, stepped into the team, looked like God's gift, and then also fallen off the face of the earth, and no one has seen him for like half a year. So this has been a position of real tumult for Man City, basically. And all the way up until recently, as in this January just gone, I was pretty much saying City need to buy a new right back. City need to look at the market. They need to make peace with Joao Cancelo. They need to go and find a different one, but they need it. They need a star at right back. That was like the obvious place in this team that I was like, you need to do something about this. But in the last 5 months, not only has Mateus effectively grasped the role, and that's not to say he's perfect, but he has got a hell of a lot better in basically every facet of the role. And teams can't target him anymore and get joy. That just doesn't really happen. All right, it doesn't show up in every single big game, but for the most part, he's been very good. And then the rise of Kuzanov, who can play as the centre-back, right-back hybrid, and basically play the Kyle Walker recovery role that City used for, well, basically a decade with Walker to such good effect, has meant that all of a sudden City arguably don't need a right back anymore. I mean, if they were to go into the market, it would need to be a can't miss deal. And these days I look at the squad and I think, is left back a bigger problem? Because Nico O'Reilly is so good from central midfield and so good from central areas. He looks like a player to me who is not going to spend much longer at left back. And that means that you might have to start asking questions over there, because Ryan Aït-Nouri is only one man. They need two, and Nathan Ake is going to go, and they don't really want to use Vardiol there if you don't have to. So all of a sudden, I've gone from City need a right back to City might need a left back. They don't need a right back necessarily anymore. So that's a credit to Mateus and a bit of a credit to Kuzanov too.
I like it. Yeah, the talk for years, well, at least for the last 18 months, was Livramento was City's like ideal dream target. And I love Livramento. I think he's a really good player. And the fact he can play both roles, that kind of makes sense. But he's just so injury prone, and it's really unfortunate.
Absolutely.
I'm just not sure whether I would spend, because if Newcastle are already going to lose Anthony Gordon, because it looks like he is definitely on the move this summer, according to all reports, either to Bayern or Barcelona. Bayern obviously, have more financial freedom.
Yeah.
Then
so Barcelona don't want to pay up for Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
Buddy, let me tell you about Anthony Gordon's price.
I just can't imagine Newcastle selling Gordon and Livramento unless it's a massive deal for Livramento, which I agree with you, probably just doesn't make sense given Matheus Nunes' form at right back. So,
and also just, again, like Livramento, he is a really good player. Cover both sides, brilliant, but he has spent most of the last year injured.
Yeah.
You just got to be so careful with this situation. Do you know what, actually? It's not that dissimilar to the situation that Newcastle bought Livramento in. He had torn his ACL. He came back and he played like 3 games at the end of the Premier League season, and then they dropped 40 million on him. And it was a big risk for a young player who had it all to prove, but had a serious injury. He's not had, I'd say, a serious injury as that since then. But he's had a couple of pretty bad ones. Like he went off on a stretcher in like September. Yeah. He was crying. I thought, oh God, that's his season done. That at this point, Livramento, you need to be very careful. So yeah, we'll see. I did mention, didn't I, that it was a very Aston Villa heavy podcast, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my next one is Villa heavy, but let's hear yours first.
Okay. No more mentions of Aston Villa from me. We're sticking in Italy though for my next one. I don't want it to come across that this guy wasn't a brilliant player before this season. His side, Inter Milan, were on the verge of a treble last year before ending up with nothing. It was pretty brutal. But I mentioned him specifically because of how much he struggled in the latter stages of the Champions League, and that is Federico Di Marco. We've talked about him a lot this season. He was terrible in the latter stages of the Champions League last year. I think it's fair to say. Okay, so in the first leg of the semi-final against Barcelona, he was taken off after 56 minutes of that 3-3 draw. Yamal in that game, he had 6 shots, completed 6 dribbles, scored and hit the post twice. In the 4-3 game at the Giuseppe Meazza, Di Marco was taken off after 55 minutes. Yamal had 9 shots and completed 14 dribbles. And obviously the obvious caveat here is that you are playing against arguably the best player in the world, definitely in the conversation. Looks like he'll be one of the best ever. It's a very difficult job, but Di Marco just had a stinker against Yamal. Then comes the final. He's taken off after 54 minutes for Zalewski, and Doué against him had 4 shots, created 3 chances, scored twice and laid on an assist. So it was a really shambolic end to the Champions League for Di Marco. But the way he has bounced back this season, absolutely phenomenal. Only Jan Sommer and Akanji have played more league minutes than him. In 33 league games, 6 goals and 17 assists. 23 goal contributions from left wing back. And yeah, He's playing as an attacking left wing back. He's got full license to bomb up and down that left side. It's not really a kind of defensive role
He's
whatsoever.
a full-on attacker, yeah.
Full-on attacker. But still, no one has contributed more league goals for a side that have won the league by 15 points. And they've scored 85 goals. That's 25 more than next top scorers Como. And their goal difference of plus 54 is 22 better than next best Como. So it's really their attack that has won them the league. And DiMarco's been their best attacking player. And prior to this recent revival from Marcus Thuram, and Lautaro Martinez has played very well in the last month as well, it was really Federico DiMarco that was their most consistent threat all season. I think he's just been absolutely phenomenal. So this season, he's at 0.24 expected goals per 90. So by that metric, he should score every 4 games. For context, Yildiz, one of the outstanding players in Serie A and a sort of in discussion for player of the season alongside DiMarco, he's at 0.27, so he's only just behind Yildiz. In terms of his expected assists per 90, he's at 0.54. Only Michael Olise can top that in the entirety of Europe's top 5 leagues. And again, he is a left wing back. It is phenomenal work. He has created 20 more chances than anyone else in Serie A. And in terms of his big game contribution as well, between the 7th of January and the 28th of February, which is where a lot of titles are actually sort of built on, it's that point of the season where you're just going to keep going. There's a lot of games. There's Champions League games. You can lose a title very quickly in that stage of the season. They played 12 games. Inter Milan did in that period. He scored 5 and assisted 8 in that period. It was kind of what won them the league in that sort of period. And you look at their big sort of downside of this season, that defeat to Bodo Glimt in the Champions League. He was on the bench for that 3-1 defeat in the first leg. And yes, they lost the second leg as well. But the damage was really done in that first leg as well. He has been absolutely crucial to Inter winning a 3rd title in 6 years. And bear in mind, prior to this run of 6 years, Inter actually went trophyless for 9 years. And DiMarco has now been a crucial component of this side for a number of years. But this year, he was the man. And respect.
Yeah, fair play. Absolutely incredible. We had a chat about him, didn't we? We were talking about the MVPs of different leagues, and like it was on the cusp of the assist record at that point. So he has set it now. He's got 17 in the league and a handful more elsewhere. Love a good fullback / wingback assist merchant. One of the great stories, obviously. He is more attacking than your average fullback, but you've got a couple of others like Julian Rierson has had a hell of a season. He's got 14 from wingback. Trent, often played in midfield, very high up, was obviously an assist merchant too. You feel drawn to these kinds of stories because you just feel like fundamentally that volume of assists, that volume of creation shouldn't really be coming from that area of the pitch.
Fantasy.
But certain players make it work, and credit to the managers who make it work in the context of the team.
For sure.
And Kivu deserves all the credit in the world this year for what he's done with Inter and what he's done with DiMarco, not just from a tactical point of view, but obviously clearly a mental point of view as well. It's like really picking this guy back up off the floor at the end of last season, like that. How Yamal treated him in those 2 legs, gross,
that's brutal, wasn't it?
Really gross, yeah, really horrible. So well done to him.
Yeah, I just one final point, just like some of his technical quality in terms of his ball striking and the way he can just put any cross onto a sixpence. Like it's quite unique to see. I think you obviously have seen it with Trent in the Premier League in recent years, but his technical quality this year has just been head and shoulders above most of his compatriots.
I do think it's Trent-esque in the range of deliveries. Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah. Right, back to Villa.
Back to Villa.
Sorry, mate.
We're never going far from Villa Park.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, right. I want to make it clear that I'm actually, as much as I appreciate this comeback, I am not 100% happy with this man.
Oh.
Emiliano Buendia.
Okay.
He, on a regular day, can infuriate.
Mm-hmm.
And much of the fan base agrees that it can be quite tough sometimes to watch him give the ball away over
so wasteful,
and over and over again. Far too much for a top side. And look, there is a lot of Buendia hate that gets bandied around. It really is. But also, he has his moments.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 goals and 8 assists for the season is a pretty phenomenal record, a pretty phenomenal return. Obviously, second to Watkins and Rodgers. But beyond that, no one else has got even anywhere near that. McGinn's not on those numbers. And while McGinn is a much more influential overall player, and Buendia is a moments player, you can't deny that 18 goals and assists is pretty strong.
100%.
He scored a really good and really crucial goal at Feyenoord earlier in the season, which was a big win in the context of Villa's sort of incoming run of wins. He has scored golazzos from outside the box against Tottenham, against Newcastle and against Bournemouth. A free kick against Bournemouth was really good. Obviously scored that last second winner against Arsenal in December that sent Villa Park nuts. And then there's last Thursday's performance, which was just like
the dancing feet.
Everybody just had to be like, okay, fair enough, that was unbelievable. Like, the amount of conversation in the pub afterwards about who was your man of the match, and like the amount of people that didn't want to say Buendia, but just in the end just had to accept that was probably the case. Like, it's genuinely through gritted teeth, because he does irritate so much with the amount of times that he gives the ball away and how kind of weak he can be in duels. But the work rate is always there, and at the end of the day, it's about putting the ball in the back of the net, and he has done it, and that performance was incredible. Now I think about where he was at the start of the season. He'd come off
I'd forgotten he'd existed.
a campaign where he, for the first half of the season, just wasn't used, mostly because he'd recovered from a torn ACL, but also because he was deemed not good enough for Villa, effectively. And then he was sent on loan to Bayer Leverkusen. So if that's not being deemed not good enough for Villa, I don't know what is. Villa tried to sell him last summer, and he kind of, from what I can tell, he basically just was like, no. I think he's very aware of the fact that, like, what he's got right now, the level he's playing at, the coach that he's playing for, his tactical fit, it's not going to get any better than this. Like, anywhere for Buendia right now is down. He's not going up from here. So he's just dug his heels in and he said, no, I can contribute. And like from a certain perspective, like, fair enough. Mm-hmm. But he looked done. He looked completely done 12 months ago. And now he has pretty much led Villa to a European final.
If you had to get your crystal ball out and looked into Buendia's next 12 months, what do you see? Is that a position, because there sounds like there's a lot of frustration there despite his performances at various points. Is he someone that you'd look to upgrade, or are you quite happy with him being a fairly key
certainly
member?
Try and upgrade, but yeah, I mean, look, basically, this is a whole different podcast, but I suspect major surgery is coming at Aston Villa this summer. Big sales, like either big money for Morgan Rogers or big personalities like Emi Martinez. I'd be stunned if Emi Martinez plays for Villa next season. And so,
bowing out
with the amount of work that needs to be done, first of all, you've got to generate the money, so that's Rodgers. Then you've got to say goodbye to someone like Jadon Sancho, who has been mostly useless, and then someone like Leon Bailey, who's completely lost it. When you start taking all those players out of the attack, I mean,
you need him.
You need some players.
Yeah.
You need to be left with, otherwise you need to buy 6 new ones.
Emery's 14-man squad.
So Buendia is probably going to end up staying there by default.
Mm-hmm.
But he, to be fair, has earned the position of default, because if he hadn't done that, then Villa might have pushed a little bit further to say, sign Jadon Sancho permanently on a free and make him that sort of like, keep, what's the word? Holdover piece.
Yeah.
Sancho has not earned that. Buendia has earned that. So that's the difference.
I like it. Okay, fair enough. Very good shout. Right. I think when people read or saw the title of this video or podcast and they thought about comebacks, I think this is the most nailed on comeback of the season, just because it's been so public. But it has to be done. Number one for me, Kobbie Mainoo. I mean, when Ruben Amorim was fired on the 5th of January 2026, at that stage, Kobbie Mainoo had actually missed the previous 4 games with injury. But it wasn't really about injuries what was going wrong for Kobbie Mainoo, who was just simply not favoured by Ruben Amorim whatsoever. Up to that stage of the season, so start of January, he played 212 league minutes of their 20 games, which is less than 12% of available league minutes. And he'd only been handed 1 start in all competitions, which was against Grimsby. And we all know what happened there.
That wasn't his fault. I'm not saying
no, for sure. But yeah, he just hadn't been used whatsoever. Since then, in their first game, which was under Fletcher, that 2-2 draw, he played 16 minutes of that. Man United fans were excited. Kobbie Mainoo's being used again. Since then, he's played the full 90 in 13 of United's last 16 games. He missed 1 game in that time, which was that Leeds game with the knock. They lost 2-1. They've won 10 of his 13 matches he has been available for, which was, and aside from that, draws against West Ham and Bournemouth, 1 defeat versus Newcastle. And his performance, particularly in that 3-2 win against Liverpool, which was a bit chaotic because Amad Diallo gives the ball away at the start of the second half. They then gave away a stupid ball through Senny Lamens as well, and it got a bit dicey, but they did settle that game down. And Kobbie Mainoo scored an unbelievable goal to win that game. Huge moment. And now from a player that was close to joining, supposedly, Napoli in January, Napoli at least wanted to sign him, he now feels like he's got a very decent chance. In fact, I would be shocked if he didn't make Thomas Tuchel's World Cup squad, because however you want to comprise this 26-man squad in terms of midfielders or attackers, and there are a number of 10s to pick, but Tuchel does need to pick a certain amount of central midfielders.
Well, he's at least 4.
Well, exactly. And if you look at that list of Rice, Anderson, Bellingham being nailed on, Bellingham might take up one of those 10 slots, but Bellingham will just go for sure. And then I think it's kind of between Wharton, Mainu, Jordan Henderson might have some shouts. But aside from that, in terms of out and out central midfielders, there aren't actually that many. Kobbie Mainoo's been to a Euros before with England. He's played in a Euros final. That sort of midfield mess throughout that tournament with Trent, then Conor Gallagher, then Mainu. He eventually grabbed that shirt. And I'm not saying he would start in this World Cup, but I would be very surprised if he didn't go. And it's on the basis of his form for a Man United side that have been the form side in the league, really, since Carrick took over. And yes, we've touched on it on previous podcasts that their performances maybe not that dominant and not that sort of all-encompassing, and there's definitely long patches of games where they look a little bit all over the place, and there's going to be a lot of change at Man United in various departments, but particularly in midfield this summer. But the fact they have Kobbie Mainoo now as a nailed-on starter is a nice base to build your midfield around.
Well, if they'd got rid of him in January, they'd need to buy 3 central midfielders this summer. They're already on the hook for 2. So now at least it's not 3, I guess, because you're able to bring in the homegrown talent. And Kobbie Mainoo, basically, he lost the battle against Ruben Amorim, but he won the war, didn't he?
For sure.
And rather than leave in January, he just went, I'm just going to wait for you to get sacked. I know I belong here. It did well. It took him half a season. True. To be fair, it didn't take him long into January. He got sacked on like January the 6th or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So not long into January, but yeah, it was a very painstaking 5.5 or so months for Kobbie Mainoo, and fair play, just hold your nerve.
New contract as well, I should have said. It's just
new
recently signed a 5-year deal.
Last week. Yeah, absolutely. So
probably going from like academy wages to one of Man United's star wages. Amazing.
Yeah, maybe. Every 6 months I do a most valuable players list for ESPN, the top 6 teams, and sort of try to update it every 6 months to see who's rising and falling in terms of importance. It moves so much, honestly, in 6 months. It's crazy, especially when you change managers every year like Chelsea or Man United. And Kobbie Mainoo has spent quite a long time out of the top 15 altogether.
Wow.
And next time I do it, he'll be like
4th, 3rd,
6th, something like that, behind the attacking lads, probably, and that's about it.
Maybe Maguire.
Yeah, maybe. And the rise and fall is just so stark. It's incredible. Fair play to any footballer who just can keep their mind during those periods. The extreme highs and lows, just not fun.
It was teetering on the edge, wasn't it? I mean, his brother was wearing a free Kobbie Mainoo t-shirt.
Yeah, a bit much.
And it felt like, well, if Ruben Amorim doesn't go, like that might seal the deal for Kobbie Mainoo to go.
We talked about it in January, and we referenced that as well. And I was sort of like shipping him to Fiorentina on loan. And Chat was being like, no, don't do that. Don't.
Don't send him there.
But Fiorentina are okay now.
Yeah, they've done well.
So well done to them. Right, my number 1.
Let's do it.
It's kind of got a Villa tint to it.
You can tell this man is mentally in Istanbul.
I'm so sorry. Stick with what you know. Number 1 is Marcus Rashford at Barcelona.
Oh, that barely has a Villa tint.
And at the top, I sort of hinted that we were looking, last season compared to this season. But obviously we go back a little bit further in Rashford's case and draw upon the last kind of 5 years or so, which has just been completely mad. Look, Rashford has won the title in Spain. It's a really pleasing storyline, and to let viewers and listeners behind the curtain a little bit, it's pretty much the storyline that we worked backwards from for the entire podcast, which was what a wonderful moment it was for Rashford to be able to score that free kick in the Clásico and help Barcelona win the title. I couldn't be happier for him. He's a nice guy and he's a good footballer and a close personal friend. He's not, unfortunately.
He met Sam a few years ago.
But I do respect him. And look, the Renaissance, I think, genuinely, it starts with Aston Villa, because Amorim jettisons him, says goodbye. He turns up at Villa. There's a lot of media attention on that, and he was very good for Villa. Weirdly, I have to keep telling people that, because whenever
He's keeping Watkins out of the side.
I have conversations with people and they're like, "Oh yeah, Rashford didn't do much at Villa, did he? Didn't do too." I was like,
people said this last summer as well.
I don't get. So I had to correct a lot of people. It was getting quite frustrating. So it's probably why I'm so invested in this remontada of Rashford's so heavily. But like a lot of people, are like, "Oh, it wasn't great for you," and I'd be like, "Oh, actually, he was." So I looked at the stats and like, all right, 2 goals in the Premier League. Well, I guess that wasn't great. 5 assists, not bad. Bear in mind he didn't start playing until February. more or less, and he missed the last 3 games with a hamstring problem. He got 3 more goal contributions in the FA Cup, and he got 2 more in the Champions League. So suddenly you're looking
He was
at
on it against PSG as well.
He terrified PSG.
Yeah.
He also got a man sent off against Club Brugge and completely killed the tie. He was a huge positive,
Yeah.
and he technically got into double figures for goal contributions across the 3 competitions. So I wasn't suffering anybody that was sort of telling me that he wasn't that great. He made Watkins look slow, and he made Rodgers look technically poor. That's how good he was. And if you think Watkins is a good player, and if you think Rodgers is a special talent, wait until you watch Marcus Rashford, basically. And then this season, obviously, loaned to Barcelona. I think Villa might have had a shot at getting him if they'd made it into the Champions League, but they didn't. So Barcelona, cut price, 14 goals, 14 assists in 47 appearances, all competitions. Pretty damn good. Not a key player, but that doesn't matter. Stepped in where required, at times where there were injuries across the forward line, uncertainty, Lewandowski ghosting in certain areas, Rafinha suspended, injured, that sort of thing. He was very useful and he played his role. And I'd like to reference 2 really healthy conversations I've seen around him this week that I can't take credit for, but they're very important. The first one came on the Continent podcast from the Ramble Boys. David Cartledge and Andy Brassel talking about just like how comfortable Rashford has felt in Barcelona and just very happy being part of the team in a very like unassuming way. And apparently he wasn't actually going to shoot from that free kick on Sunday until one of his teammates encouraged him to. He's like, it hadn't really occurred to me.
Wow.
It's like nice. It's just nice.
Yeah.
Like he's a nice dude and he's humble and he's kind of just enjoying the fruits of that. And then on my Blue Sky timeline, there's a guy called Nick who runs the Man United Youth Watch account and was talking about how if you look back, it's probably not that fair that while United over that 3-4 year period post-pandemic where they just run like a circus, all the fans just lost their minds with the club, right? They were at their wits' end and it crushed quite a lot of the
Everyone
fans.
got blamed.
So if the fans can get crushed by the situation, why wouldn't the players? And why wouldn't the face of the club? You know, and at a certain point, Rashford was bigger than the club because he was taking on the UK government and writing children's books. Like probably an unhealthy amount of personality going on there compared to the football that he was producing. So yeah, he got crushed by the machine. And for him to sort of step away and very slowly like rehab his career through 18 months, 6 at Villa, 12 in Spain, just really nice. And unlike at Villa where he couldn't really point to anything particular to be like, that made me a success, you know, double digits goal contributions in all competitions doesn't quite have the same ring to it as trophies. Trophies is what he is taking back from Barcelona if he doesn't get made permanent there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't really have much to add. I thought that was an absolutely brilliant section. I'd kind of disagree with you saying he's not necessarily a key player, but just because of the injuries they've had in that forward line, I think he's been absolutely essential to it. I see some Barcelona fans on my timeline, and look, they are used to the best players in the world playing for their club on a year-to-year basis, and they have at points complained about him kind of drifting in and out of matches.
Yeah.
But that is Marcus Rashford. You know, he delivers in the biggest moments. He creates and delivers in big moments. He's designed for, you know, 5-6 opportunities per game of either creation or taking it. And I think this year at Barcelona, he's been great.
I think when I say not key player, I think I just mean, I suppose,
he wouldn't start if everyone was fit.
if everyone was fit, he wouldn't be in the starting 11.
Yeah.
He'd be probably first off the bench in attack to change things, which is probably a very fair way to gauge the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously in a very long season, in a squad game where you play 60-odd games, these players are super useful.
And they generally make these transfers work by hook or by crook, Barcelona. I don't want to put it out there as as like a guarantee, but I would have thought they'll find a way to sign Rashford. Rashford will obviously be, you'd expect, very determined to stay, which is a key factor. I mean, maybe you guys could get your hat in the ring if things really did crumble there, but maybe he is just, I don't mean to be even disrespectful to Aston Villa, but kind of prove that he is capable of playing for the best clubs in Europe. And if you're Bayern Munich and you're considering spending £80 million on Anthony Gordon or £70 million on Anthony Gordon, or Marcus Rashford's there for 30, whatever Man United want, I think there's an argument that I would go for Marcus Rashford.
I think that's fair. You know, I think that's very fair. Villa, I'm sure Emery would stick his nose into that conversation if Villa was to get back into the Champions League and things went stale elsewhere. But yeah, he effectively is good enough to play for a super club. And I would just add PSG into that mix, just because he has a long history of playing really well against PSG.
Yeah.
And PSG fans are really scared of him, which is quite funny. I didn't really realise this until Villa played them, but they were all bricking it. Not Rashford, Jesus. So that one has kind of felt a little bit like it could happen over the years, but the worlds have never collided. There are persistent rumours right now that Bradley Barcola could go. Like, it's being talked about quite heavily. I personally don't understand why PSG would want to lose a player like that, although I understand that he, again, when everyone's fit, isn't currently in the starting 11 and has fallen out of the starting 11 again, the second year running, just to Doué at the wrong time. It must be really annoying. But if Barcola were to go, why not Rashford?
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, he's in a very good position to start for England at the World Cup. He's in a very good position to get serious minutes for England at the World Cup. Hold off until the end of the World Cup, and I think you'll be in a fantastic position to have a number of clubs after you.
Yeah, we'll see. There you go. The comeback of the year, or is it Mainu?
I had more belief in Rashford at Barcelona being a success, and he's kind of been consistently good ever since he got there. Whereas Mainu's had such a dramatic comeback this season, and it's been so bleak and then so good. I think it's Mainu.
Okay. You know what? I'll give you that one.
Okay.
Fantastic. And if Jack were here, I mean, he is. If Jack could talk...
He was suggesting Harrison Reed behind that.
Was he actually? Yeah. Thank God he doesn't have a microphone.
I didn't know. At one stage, I don't know what the context was, but it just said IMO Harrison Reed. But I don't know whether that was specifically about something else.
Fantastic. Well, that can't be good, that message. Anyway, no problem. Right, Dougie, it's been a pleasure to sit at the table.
It's been great to be back.
Superb. Thank you, Jack. Not really, but thank you, I suppose. And of course, the last thank you goes to the listeners and the watchers. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the comebacks. Tell us of your favourites. Stick them in the YouTube comments. I'll be delighted to hear about them. And we will see you. No, there's no podcast next week.
Someone will be in Istanbul.
For the very best of reasons, there ain't no fucking podcast next week.
Just as well, because Sam's mentally been there already.
I've already packed half my bag. I bought a new wardrobe for the trip. I bought 2 more Villa shirts.
How many Villa shirts have you got?
I'm taking 5.
5? You're only there for 3 days.
Airport.
Yeah.
First night out.
Nice.
Daytime, then snooze, then home
Are
show
you
for the night.
snoozing in one?
No, go, in the daytime, have a wander around, then go home, and then change again, and then wear one for the night, for the game, and then plane home.
Do you have a lucky one for the game?
No, I'm gonna wear this season's shirt for the game.
Mega.
Yeah. Right.
Enjoy, man. Good luck.
So won't see you next week, but maybe see you next week.
The week after.
No, the following week.
Yeah,
perfect. All right. Right, let's call it a day.
Let's call it a day.